projects we could feasibly fund over the next 25 years, and then how the committee wanted to fund those projects. As you can see, over 50% of their proposed programming is for congestion mitigation, which are widening projects and new location roadways. They also have a significant amount that's proposed for transit, as well as for systems preservation, preserving the infrastructure that we have out there today. As I mentioned, we had to look at the environmental impacts. We not only looked at wetlands and environmental features, but we also looked at environmental justice. How are these projects going to impact low-income minority communities? President Clinton signed the Environmental Justice Act of 1994, and so we are required to evaluate those projects and those impacts as part of our environmental review process. Now to get kind of into the recommendations of the committee, they do include all modes of transportation. To start off, talk about the aviation projects. We did work with ILM in identifying what improvements could be implemented. We did survey them as well as take into account the surveys that we received from the community. And they recommended that we improve access for all modes of transportation to ILM, as well as improve access to Raleigh-Durham as part of our planning process. Bicycle projects, we reviewed and ranked over 200 bicycle projects, bicycle lanes within the region. As you can see, the top 10 include improvements on High Trask, on the drawbridge connecting Russell Beach with the city of Wilmington, improvements on Oleander Drive, South Front Street, which I want to gladly say that we have already completed a section between the Memorial Bridge down to Burnett Boulevard, as well as look at improvements on Carolina Beach with Central Boulevard and Harper Avenue. The plan also includes the Island Greenway, which connects Curry and Carolina Beach, as well as the Cross City Trail in the city of Wilmington. Pedestrian projects, these are more policy-oriented improvements, but we recommend to construct pedestrian improvements with all transportation projects. Looking at the Complete Streets initiative that has been adopted by the North Carolina Department of Transportation, as well as the Wilmington Metropolitan Planning Organization, trying to incorporate all modes of transportation, bicycle, pedestrian, and transit into our planning process early on so that we can leverage our funding in order to build these projects simultaneously. Pedestrian policy also includes crosswalks and ped heads at new traffic signals, coordinating efforts between DOT, municipalities, and counties in our pedestrian planning process, working with the Safe Routes to School initiative in order to fund transportation improvements throughout the region, as well as promoting the walkability as a viable and safe mode of transportation. The committee recommended freight projects and freight improvements, which includes upgrades to US 74 and the rail line between Wilmington and Charlotte, improving the rail junction in Pembroke, as well as restoring the rail line between Wallace and Castlehane. I know that there's been a little bit of discussion about that at the General Assembly just recently. Mass transportation projects, and I know Albert's going to go into these in more detail in a little bit, but the plan recommends the construction of the maintenance and operations facility, as well as the multimodal transportation center. The plan recommends some transportation demand management strategies, which I'll get into here in a minute, but one of those is park and ride lots, because we do want to get people out of their single occupancy vehicles and try to promote alternative modes of transportation. And the plan actually identifies several park and ride lots throughout the region, which we feel will be very viable, and want to promote those as we move forward into the future. It also includes some express bus routes, not only within Wilmington, but looking at areas outside of the MPO boundary, like Burgo and Hampstead, as well as 5 new bus rapid transit corridors, with the first being the Market Street corridor. This map demonstrates the mass transportation initiatives. As you can see, the circles that have the white in them would be the parking pride lots that are on the periphery of the MPO, which would allow somebody to drive your car and either access mass transportation at those sites or carpool, depending on the availability. The plan included existing railway projects, and I'll get into these in a minute, but they included the Wilmington Bypass, the Carr Avenue widening project, the Causeway widening project, the Hampstead Bypass, and Military Cutoff Extension, to name a few. The plan breaks projects down into three categories. One is congestion mitigation, which is to address congestion issues on roadways to more efficiently move traffic throughout the community through widening new location roadways. The second is quality of life, which are streetscape projects, which are to improve the aesthetics of the community, as well as to improve safety. Those include landscaping and medians. And then the third one are safety improvements, and those are located specifically at intersections, looking at roundabouts and intersection realignments to improve safety at those specific locations. As I mentioned, that table or that matrix that you weren't going to be able to read, this is that matrix. This identifies the criteria that the Citizen Advisory Committee evaluated when they evaluated each of these projects in the congestion mitigation process. As you can see, there's several different things that they looked at, and as I mentioned, they put a lot of time and effort into evaluating each of these projects. Just a couple of the congestion mitigation projects. The Cape Fear Riverway, which will be to upgrade River Road all the way from Independence Boulevard down to the Snows Cut Bridge, was a project that floated to the top of the CAC's ranking. There's Hurst Drive extension, Dogwood Lane extension, and Head Road extension. There's also widening of Gasoline Road, South Front Street, and some flyovers at Martin Luther King Parkway and Market Street. This again touches on some additional roadway projects. As you can see, there's widenings or interchange improvements throughout the region. Quality of life projects, as I mentioned before, were streetscape enhancement projects that improve safety, provide pedestrian accommodations, curb and gutter. As you can see, some of the top priorities were South College Road, Carolina Beach Road, Market Street. Again, some others are Rexwell Avenue, Dawson and Wooster. And then on US 17, in Brunswick County, looking at access management improvements between Lambeau Road and 7476. Some improvements to Wilshire Boulevard and McMillan Avenue. Final category that the CAC identified and ranked projects for and identified fiscally constrained projects for safety. As I mentioned before, these are intersection improvements to improve the offsets or to improve safety by the construction of roundabouts. As you can see, River Road and Saunders Road was a high priority that was also identified in the River Road Small Area Plan that we completed back in 2006. Some improvements down at Wrightsville Beach with Salisbury Street and around about at Lumen Avenue, as well as Pine Grove Drive and Wrightsville Avenue. We also looked over in Brunswick County at Navassa Road and Old Mill Road. Some improvements down at Carolina Beach with improvements at Dow Road, with North Lake Boulevard all the way to K Avenue, looking at upgrading that facility with the multi-use path as well as widening the shoulder in order to improve safety of that corridor, as well as turn lanes at those locations. Again, just to continue the list. This is a 2035 plan. It's not going to happen overnight, but it is something that we see as the vision for transportation for this region. And, you know, as I mentioned before, as a project comes off, as we complete one project, another project will rise to the top. And we're going through that local prioritization process. We're actually going to be presenting it to our Transportation Advisory Committee hopefully next month. And I see Councilman Patch in the back, he sits on the TAC. As I mentioned, there are some transportation demand management, transportation systems management strategies included in the plan. One is to organize the Tri-County Regional Transportation Commission to facilitate and hire a full-time transportation demand management coordinator to encourage the integration of land use and transportation plan, improve access management. That's a real important note. I know that some of these folks will probably touch on that a little bit with some transit-oriented development here in a few minutes, but these are all important steps to improving transportation for this region. And so we wanted to present that to you. The K-3 Commutes 2035 Transportation Plan was adopted by the MPO's TAC on December 15, 2010. I can also tell you that each of the municipalities and counties within the MPO have adopted this plan. So it does have the full support of each of the organizations. And so with that, I'll sit down. I know Chris is ready for me to sit down.
I didn't plan on intruding, Mike, into giving the only formal PowerPoint presentation, but that appears to be the way it turned out. So I apologize and thank you for that. It's the framework, I think, that will help us not repeat things that perhaps they've already covered in great detail, or give us ideas for questions that we want to address later on. Thank you. So now I'd like to go